I'm not that concerned if people are having fun. Am I engaged? That's the important thing.
I get it now. And I gotta respect it.
For the majority of its runtime, Cyberpunk 2077 is an action-packed RPG. Even if you hone your protagonist, V, into a stealth ninja assassin, the neon-soaked night city is still frequently the stage for tense combat encounters. That is, however, until Somewhat Damaged, one of the Phantom Liberty expansion's final quests. Inside a bunker buried deep beneath the city, Cyberpunk 2077 leaves its RPG structure behind and morphs into a survival horror. A relentless robotic hunter stalks you through chambers and corridors, and there's nothing your weapons can do to stop it. To find out how this level and its terrifying mechanical monster were created, we spoke to staff from developer CD Projekt Red.
I really wanted to do something eldritch horror.
We also took a good look at the Alien franchise and Alien Isolation.
This quest is about running away, but we also want you to explore.
There's gotta be another way. Look around.
With their insight, we examine how Somewhat Damaged makes use of logical environment design, increasingly stressful objectives, and resourceful AI scripting to manifest Phantom Liberty's terrifying crescendo. This is Art of the Level. Phantom Liberty tells the story of Song So Mi, better known as Songbird, and Reed, two NUSA agents and former partners. Throughout the campaign, it's revealed that Songbird is on a personal mission to escape the toxic grip of her employer. If you help her, she will save you from your terminal brain virus, aka Johnny Silverhand.
I know about the bomb ticking in your head.
As the campaign reaches its climax, you're given a choice. Work with Songbird, or betray her, and let Reed take her into NUSA custody. Choosing that second option triggers Somewhat Damaged, a terrifying final quest that's unique to this branch of the story.
Song's not here. Truck's empty.
Somewhat Damaged sees a devastated, mentally unstable Songbird flee to Cynosure, an abandoned facility beneath Night City.
You still don't understand the thing, do you?
There she connects with the Black Wall, a defense network that protects the world from unknowable digital horrors, and activates a rogue AI to stalk, hunt, and kill you. Within the dark, decaying corridors of the bunker, all you can do is run and hide. It's a bold left turn for a game normally so focused on action.
And here we are going down, 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 the rabbit hole into the heart of darkness.
I went to Pavel Sasko and I said, hey, I want to do this. A lot of people aren't going to like this, but I think the people who do like it are really going to like it.
I wanted to make something that was way out of my comfort zone and just kind of pushed, everything that I knew about how to work with our engine and gameplay and all of that stuff. And so with that in mind, we tried to come up with how can we push our technology and our encounter system, everything to create this truly unique experience for the player.
Like some kind of restless spirit from beyond the veil, Songbird's rogue AI possesses a Cerberus. It's a maintenance robot, but don't let that basic purpose fool you. This is a relentless, powerful beast. And, unlike any robot you've faced in the campaign before this point, it's completely impervious to damage or hacking. The first thing the development team had to do then was to teach players that the Cerberus wasn't a boss to fight, but a monster to avoid at all costs.
The ideal of a great RPG boss fight is a boss that makes you use all of your skills and acknowledges the skills that you've chosen in order to defeat the boss. But in this case, I went completely against that. I said, okay, you know what, we're just going to break the rules here, and we're going to say that, okay, none of your abilities are really going to help you here. We just have to disable all of those things, because if you give the player the ability to chase the thing off or to disable the thing, if your guns do anything to this thing, that's what players are going to try to do to get through it.
If you insist, you will be detected.
And we need them to understand the very first time it kills them, nope, this thing can kill you immediately, there's nothing you can do. It's the only way to immediately communicate that.
To put players in the right headspace, the development team carefully designed the path towards the initial Cerberus encounter with a focus on tone. After betraying Songbird in the previous quest, Reed and V attempt to capture her in an explosive raid on a max-tac convoy. From that point onwards, as V follows Songbird into the bunker, things begin to veer further and further away from the experience you typically expect of Cyberpunk 2077.
Gaze into the abyss, you'll find the abyss staring right back at you.
I need to make sure, as you're moving through this space, that there isn't any shooting. There's as little traditional gameplay as possible. You're just moving forward, I'm just raising the tension, I'm just changing the atmosphere, I'm moving you through kind of thematic airlocks, one after the other, to just keep that sense of space between those things, so that when you encounter that different kind of gameplay, you immediately recognize that it is a different kind of gameplay. The objective there is to make sure that the player understands that, okay, it's a different game now.
We cannot exist. There is nothing to fear.
Because Somewhat Damaged is so different from the rest of Cyberpunk 2077, the team needed to look to a very different set of influences.
So there was Event Horizon. We also took a good look at the Alien franchise and Alien Isolation, right? But there were also the Amnesia games, I suppose, and Resident Evil would also be one.
So Cerberus monster itself came from Alien Isolation, because they nailed this idea of this unpredictable predator that is hunting on you on the level and is keeping you tense even when it's absent. So this was something that we thought, okay, this is exactly what we want.
Achieving such an experience is easier said than done though. The entirety of Alien Isolation revolves around the cat and mouse gameplay between the player and the xenomorph, and so developer Creative Assembly could put significant time and resources into coding its sophisticated artificial intelligence system. CDPR, on the other hand, only needed such a hunter for one single quest, a quest that many players wouldn't even experience thanks to the branching narrative, and so the team had to find a way to replicate that hunted feeling using craftier techniques.
So we kind of wanted to do this hunting mechanic, right? Which really sort of drove most of the design. Basically, the entire facility is divided into two sections, which we have the outer bunker and the inner bunker. The inner bunker is the place where you first meet the robot, Cerberus, our baby. Basically, you see that the entire facility is split into multiple different rooms, in which the game does a check of where V is. Is V in this room? No. Okay. Is V in that room? No. Okay. Is V in that room? Yes. And then it basically sends the Cerberus into that room. But before that, it asks, okay, the Cerberus has multiple different patrol routes. They can do here, it can do here. It basically picks one random one. This ensures that, we have this feeling of the robot being completely autonomous and moving in different patterns each time that it comes around, but it really doesn't, right? We're all about trying to keep this illusion of it being much more complicated than it really is. From the robot's perspective, it's never actively actually hunting the player, sorry, but it happens to be sent into let's say, walks within the area that V is in. So, that coincides, which is a bit of a problem for V, but really the robot is just on a walk.
One day to turn left. Just hope that metal monstrosity doesn't zero me first.
It may be just an illusion, but that doesn't keep the terror from feeling very real. That result is partly thanks to the team realizing how nothing at all is actually much scarier than a constantly present predator.
Horror really lives rather of the absence of the robot compared to its presence, right? It really switches from horrific, atmospheric horror where you're sort of afraid of the danger around every corner to full-on stress, panic mode whenever the robot is there. And you need to kind of be careful not to overdo that, which is why we learned really quickly that a lot of this relies heavily on sound as well.
The Cerberus has a distinct audio signature. Its 6 metal legs thud against the metal flooring with a regular pattern. You can hear the whine of its servo motors as it climbs into the air vents that snake around the facility. A signal that the corridors are now free of its presence. But making this hunter operate as intended was a much more difficult task than making it sound right. Before the final Cerberus was a prototype based on Royce, the cybernetic psychopath from the main Cyberpunk 2077 campaign, whose programming was a far cry from the creepy stalker the team were aiming for.
We didn't get the robot, the final Cerberus, for a really long time, which made developing this super difficult because we were only approximating everything that we wanted to do. The first version was Royce, which had the issue of not really understanding when to stop running after you and fighting you. And then we picked an enemy which was less of what we wanted in the final version, but functionally worked a bit better. That was the blood ritual cyber psycho. And then later when we got the final robot, or like the first robot mesh, he was just basically for the first time working even worse than both of these, which made the idea of sort of, hey, we need to be afraid of it and sort of like figure out how to make this horror gameplay sequence even harder. He would just glitch in animations. Most of the time he didn't have animations. There were quite a few moments throughout development where we were this short before just making it a combat encounter, right? Like, hey, why don't we just make it so you fight the robot, end of story. There was actually a long time where we did have a fight with the robot planned towards the end of it, right? But we really couldn't get it to work, and it was this whole idea of like, okay, why can you kill him now when you couldn't before? So we had to find a way to sort of, weaken him, to put him in, and that was all so much more complicated that at some point we just decided, you know what? No, we'll just make it unkillable, and that basically forced us to really commit to all the rest of it.
The Cerberus is an important part of Somewhat Damaged, but avoiding it is not your primary task. Instead, this predator is a constant threat as you attempt to fulfill your main goal of venturing deeper into the Cynosure bunker and finding Songbird at its core.
So me? Hear me?
Accessing the core first requires opening the colossal bulkhead door that connects the inner and outer bunker, done by disabling 4 different data terminals. Each is located in different rooms around the facility. It's hardly a scary prospect for a horror-themed level, but a smart shift in how the world is presented makes the simple act of finding computers much more interesting than you first expect.
The belief that I had back then, together with Patrick and the rest of the team, was that in order to really put the player into this horror mindset, we kind of need to get their attention and their eyes on the screen and what was happening as much as possible.
Fuck. Come on, Songbird. Songbird?
The solution was to eliminate the minimap. When you enter Cynosure, Songbird hacks your GPS link. This removes the distraction from your screen, but also cuts you off from your location data and objective markers.
Once we took away the minimap, you lose part of your orientation, so you are disoriented, but also you are a bit more immersed into your vicinity, because now you have to read the level to know where you go. You have to check the signs, you have to look at the architecture.
For us, it was clear we wanted the player to look at the level and really sort of have to think about where they need to move, but it really posed a different set of challenges.
Miles had, just before this, actually done a deep dive, an investigation on how Arcane builds their levels, and actually had made a presentation for the whole studio about, like, this is how, like, I've dissected Arcane's design, this is how Arcane designs their levels, we should be doing more of this. And so I knew that he had the bona fides to put his money where his mouth was and actually build something immersive sim style.
What we came up with was, of course, that we gave each room a name. We put the names very visible on the level. We worked with the UI team, where it was really, hey guys, we need your help to solve this. We need to have an in-game map. We need to have, like this terminal where you can look at the status of the door, and the status of the door needs to be really, really clear, that it has 4 locks, and these locks are these data terms, you need to get to them, and how does the player understand which data term is activated and which one isn't and all that, and they really had to help us with that.
No Songbird. This ends now.
This meticulously designed, easy-to-read environment is just one of the components that make this whole level work as intended. The second is the Cerberus and its clever AI behaviour. The final piece comes in the form of objectives. With the Cerberus inflicting so much pressure, the mission's tasks had to be carefully balanced. They couldn't ask players to do anything overly complex.
Data terms. Could disable them.
And so opening the bulkhead door is simply a case of activating 4 data terminals. The resulting challenge is not the terminals themselves, but the tense exploration required to find them.
It's a high-stress environment, so it's difficult to make complicated decisions. The gameplay is the same. You literally just go to these 4 points, interact with them, and survive. That's it, right? So we make the simple thing difficult through the Cerberus being around, but we keep the things themselves simple. And it took us still a lot of time to get players to play this and have fun with it because of what I said, like there being so many components that need to come together to actually make it work.
A lot of this is really inspired by other horror games that are doing that thing and looking at what they're doing. What is it that you have to do in Soma or Alien Isolation or whatever to progress? Well, the gameplay comes from you're being hunted, you need to go and press this switch and operate this device. And when you're doing it, you can't see behind you, and that sort of fear of this thing lurking.
Your main objective, your main goal is to defeat the facility, because you are not fighting an enemy that is sort of physical, since Cerberus cannot be killed by you. So your objective also has to give you some chance of, okay, you are not a passive person here, you are disempowered, you cannot do what you've been doing before, but parts and bits of it remain. So perhaps if you, for example, if you invested in stealth tree, your footsteps will not be as loud, so you have more room to check stuff out.
To allow players to successfully avoid the Cerberus while exploring the outer bunker, a number of hiding spots were built into the design of each room and corridor.
The level does feature a couple of hiding spots, which also try to telegraph themselves through lighting. Lighting was also a big tool for us to kind of make this level sing. So these hiding spots are the ones that they start blinking. So you can look out on the level, for sections where you have flashing lights, and that's where there is a valid 100% safe hiding spot where if you stand in there, you're cool. Nothing will happen unless you shoot at the robot, of course. A lot of the hiding also is done outside of that with just having plenty of cover, right? So that's the one benefit of having the fixed patrol lines. I could predict for each patrol point where cover should be to kind of make each and every one of them fair. And that also came from a lot of playtesting.
With all 4 data terminals activated, the door to the inner bunker opens and you can continue your search for Songbird. The next task is to shut down the facility's core, which requires you to sabotage 3 key systems: the neural network, the data front's firewall devices, and the thermic control. Similar to the outer bunker, you once again need to cautiously explore the environment to find these objectives. But this time, each task involves more risk and danger. With the Cerberus still very much on your tail, this section ratchets up stress and panic levels.
The idea was always to kind of, between the inner and outer bunker, to have the outer bunker be sort of the tutorial area more or less, but still, where you have this dense atmospheric horror with the robot being around. And the second one was where we wanted to switch it from just the sheer terror of being in this space where there's a thing hunting you to you being confronted by that thing much more often, right? So this section tends to be much more stressful. And we do this not only because of the objectives we do there, but everything around that is basically built to do this. The rooms are smaller, the spaces are more claustrophobic.
the Cerberus respawn timer, let's call it like that, is shorter there. So you have more encounters within, and the objectives are no longer just you hooking yourself to the system and shutting it down. You have to be more visceral. You have to rip the cables, you have to destroy stuff.
Then on the sort of objective design there, they're still kept relatively simple, but they often result in an action that calls the robot, right? Shoot these things, where you're in an environment where that's the last thing you want to do. Right? So we're really forcing the player to interact with the robot and the environment in a way that they know will end badly for them.
With all 3 objectives complete, the facility goes into emergency lockdown, trapping you in the observation room. It makes you a sitting duck for the Cerberus, which of course turns up for one final hunt. Thankfully, the room is arranged in a circle, allowing just enough space for you to stay out of the patrolling robot's vision cone, provided you keep moving. It makes for a white-knuckle finale to Night City's most terrifying game of hide-and-seek.
We have this issue of balancing, how often the robot should be there and how not. And in this particular section, which generally is smaller, we had moments where the player would be able to simply speedrun it, and without the robot actually just having any chance to show itself. And so the decision was long-term made to kind of just, hey, what if we just lock the door and you kind of have to endure the robot being in there? And that room was also chosen and then also scaled up to fit this kind of gameplay because it was so central, right? We could guarantee no matter what order you did the objectives in, that this was the last room you'd go through. The patrol there is basically just an O, and what the player needed to do in order to hide away from that, which is, basically either tail him or be ahead of him, but you can't stay static.
Successfully avoiding the Cerberus here isn't the final showdown though. That comes as you head back to core control to shut the system down for good. But rather than an explosive battle, the Cerberus is instead defeated thanks to an emotional heart-to-heart with Songbird.
So please.
Convinced by your words and worn down by the world, she finally calls off the hunt and powers down the robot.
For a moment, we did consider letting you have a boss fight with Cerberus, like having horror section throughout this facility, but letting you defeat it at the end. But after debating it for a while, checking how it would work, we decided that no, it would give you a sense of victory, but we don't want you to have that sense of victory. We want you to be in the stage of, okay, damn, I survived this, and not, I finally killed that bastard. And then we let you settle down, and then after all this, we hit you with the big question at the end.
So me.
2 missions prior, Phantom Liberty serves up the campaign's biggest choice. Will you stand by Songbird or betray her?
I'm with you, so me.
During Somewhat Damaged, in the very heart of the Cynosure bunker, you reach the campaign's most important choice. You betrayed Songbird to get here, but will you stick by your decision?
Please. End it.
Will you force this devastated woman into the clutches of the people who broke her, or will you allow her one final mercy and end her suffering, knowing full well that if you do, your chance to cure your own terminal illness will be lost forever?
I get it now. And I gotta respect it.
It's a duology of decisions that demanded a huge amount of work to ensure they felt both challenging and satisfying for players to navigate.
Do I help Somi or do I betray Somi? And if you help Somi, you learn things that make you doubt your choice. And then in the other path where you decide to betray Somi, you're going to learn things that make you doubt your choice. And that's really important because then we offer you another choice at the end of those 2 paths, like, do you regret your decision now? How do you feel about this? It was really necessary to get Somi's story back in there once we had a better idea of who she was and what her backstory was and what those dilemmas were going to be.
Not gonna let you die, Somi. We'll make it out of here. Together.
To reveal the final vital pieces of Songbirds' story, a series of flashback visions were added to V's journey through the bunker. Each one shows a key moment of Somi's life, pulling the curtain back on her mistakes and misfortunes.
Ever broken a promise?
The main focus is the story about Songbird and Reed. So this is what we wanted to talk about, this is what we wanted to show the players. And for us, the bunker was a metaphor of going deep into Songbird's mind. There are two sides of Songbird. One is this sort of named caged bird, that we wanted to tell you that she did the whole Phantom Liberty plot, that she did the whole betrayal and all that. But while she is wrong, of course, she was also sort of a victim of circumstances. We wanted to show this through hallucinations. We wanted to give you this sort of going back in time. The first hallucination you encounter is fairly recent. It's her conversation with Kurt. It's something that you as a player can still orient yourself about because it's pretty much happening inside the Phantom Liberty. Then you go in time, you have her operation, so she's still without cyberware, you have her oath to Myers, just like you had your oath.
So help me God.
And you have her first encounter with Reed. And then you jump into Brooklyn, where it's even happier time. This is the core of her sort of identity, her happy place, literally her happy place, where she is safe from whatever else was happening in the world, where she had friends, where she had relationship that sort of she herself managed to fail. And we wanted you to have this knowledge because you would just be choosing what to do with her. So if you just see her as this crazy person who betrays you, you will just be antagonistic towards her. You already chose Reed once, so there is no reason for you to not choose it again unless we give you additional information.
I made so many mistakes. Did terrible things. But here, back then, they never mattered.
At the same time, we wanted to show you through the bunker a second side of Songbird, that she is an unstable individual that is packed with top cyberware and has an active connection to AI from beyond Blackwall. She is like a cyber nuke in this Phantom Liberty 2077 world, and left alone she is extremely dangerous. If you think that running away from one maintenance robot in one small area of the world was scary, think of what would happen if she hacked like the whole Arasaka headquarters.
Armed with that knowledge, you can make your final decision. Will you hand Songbird over to the NUSA, the organisation that ruined her life and turned her into a cybernetic weapon? Or will you grant her wish of death, finally allowing her some peace?
Second chance. I never really got it, did I?
I did have the idea that like killing Somi felt to me like the mercy option, right? Returning her to the people who effectively tortured her should feel gross. It should feel really icky. She's broken, she's pathetic, she is someone who has been tortured, she's been mistreated, and whatever your feelings about her, I want you to feel sympathy. I want you to feel that nobody deserves this.
Before it all goes dark, for one last second, I'll know I wasn't alone.
Whatever she's done that's wrong, this is too much. This is not okay. I want you to really be torn up when you make that decision whether to mercy kill her or give her back to Reed. I want the player to find that place in themselves that has sympathy for broken things. I'm not that concerned if people are having fun. Am I engaged? That's the important thing.
Somewhat Damaged is, arguably, not a very fun mission, at least not in the traditional sense of the word. It's an incredibly stressful experience in which you must face Phantom Liberty's most terrifying foe using a set of unfamiliar gameplay tools. It forces you to confront one of Cyberpunk's most depressing storylines, and then asks you to permanently pull the plug on one of its best characters. It is, in almost every way, a bad time, and yet that's what makes it one of CD Projekt Red's finest ever creations. It is undeniably engaging thanks to its complete commitment to the vision, a vision that jettisons much of the game's fundamentals in search of something special. The result is a truly unique mission. This is a horror level through and through. Of course it isn't meant to be fun, it's meant to be terrifying, and that's exactly what Something Damaged is.
Don't even try.
Thank you for watching this episode of Art of the Level. For more behind the scenes stories like this, take a look at our breakdowns of Phantom Liberty's Chimera boss battle and Alien Isolation's The Quarantine level, and check out other episodes of Art of the Level for more developer insights and critical analysis of some of the best levels in gaming history.